Boker Tov again. Boker Tov means good morning in Hebrew. Boker Tov. It's like you broke your toe, but it's Boker Tov. Tov is a wonderful word in Hebrew, good. And you have the word Tov a few times in the first chapters of Genesis. And in two places, there is Tov Mel, very good. So Tuesday, on the day of creation, on Tuesday, the word good appears twice. That's why all the weddings in Israel are on Tuesdays. Because it's a good day to be married. Go explain the translation in America. What? We need a weekend. What are you talking about? Who does weddings on Tuesday? So we spoke in the last two sessions about the two beginning holidays. We talked about Rosh Hashanah, which was what? Rosh Hashanah. New Year. Rosh, head, Shana, year. Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. And then we spoke about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I think it was easy to accept Yom Kippur, a day of atonement, instead of like a month of atonement. I'm sure when the idea came up, the Jews said, excuse me, one day will be enough. How many days we need to atone? Actually, every day. Every day. And now comes a different holiday. Again, it's about 40 days of non-stop holidays. And you see it on the page, Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot. Sukkah, you remember when the Israelites left Egypt, and you remember there was a lot of walking in the desert for 40 years. So according to tradition and according to the text in the Bible, they build a Sukkot. They build those huts. That's what Sukkah is really. It's a hut, has walls. On the top of the Sukkah nowadays, I don't know, how many people have seen a Sukkah? You have greenery on the top of the Sukkah. People in Boys Town never understood why a bunch of Jews go and pick up whatever corn they have and greenery every time. Where else we can get cover for a sukkah unless you go to Boys Town? They were not always pleased about what we took from there. I remember. And the sukkah has, and you're supposed to dwell on 7 or 8 days, depends what stream of Judaism you follow. 8 days Orthodox and conservative, 7 days liberal Jews. It's a very hard holiday to do in Nebraska. Because remember now, Jewish holidays are not always on the right day, because it changes every year. So sometimes Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot is in late October. According to tradition, you're supposed to sleep there at night and eat all your meals. It's a little bit tough in Nebraska to do this. I know people that have space heaters connecting to the inside of the home. So the Sukkah, we dwell there because of the remembrance of the exile or the exit from Egypt, because this is what our forefathers and foremothers have done. But also the Sukkah seems to be such a powerful symbol, because what actually we are supposed to do, we are supposed to leave the comfort of our homes and dwell in a structure that at any moment can collapse on us. this is the belief that God is the protector of all of us. And how do I make it practical? What do I do with the confessions that went for hours and hours and days of days during the celebration, the commemoration of the Day of Atonement? How do I actually make it meaningful? I make it meaningful not only by reciting prayers, but by doing things. This is the power of a mitzvah. It's not enough just to think about this. It's not just enough to circumcise my heart. You have also to do something to prove that you understand the connection between the mind and the heart. So this was always the push in Judaism. Every holiday has a bunch of mitzvot, of commandments, that are associated with celebrating the holiday. But it has to do with the symbols, with the meaning of the holiday. So, what is the favorite food on Hanukkah? You know that Jewish Christmas holiday? I'm just kidding. Latkes. How do you fry latkes? You fry them. In what? Oil. Why oil? Why can't we eat carrots instead? Well, it would be healthier if we celebrate Hanukkah with eating carrots. No, we don't. We do it in oil because what was the miracle of Hanukkah?
More oil.
Oil lasted. They found, according to the story, they found a small jar and there was enough oil there for 8 days. That's why Hanukkah is 8 days. Thank God. I can imagine if there was oil for 16 days, how much more gifts we'll have to buy for our children in order to compete with what Christian kids get. Hanukkah is problematic for sometimes. I think this tradition of gifts is completely out of line. Do you have to get a gift every night? Hanukkah Geld. You get those coins. It's beautiful. You get gold coins, which you cannot buy anything because inside there's chocolate. But it's gold. So you have again the oil of the latkes, or the sufganiyot in Israel. So sufganiyot is what they eat in Israel. Sufganiyot are donuts filled with jelly. That's how we used to eat in Israel. Latkes is something that it's more traditional here. Passover. You can't just sit for 8 days of Passover without what? How do you make Passover relevant? You can't just think about redemption and freedom from Egypt by itself. What do? The first night you have what? Passover Seder. You sit around the table and you reenact redemption through the food and through the different prayers that you read from a special book called the Haggadah, the telling of the story. There's an order. And then, in order to keep the kids awake, little kids, you hide. I mean, you run out of spaces where to hide this matzah, afikomen. Afikomen used to be, it's a Greek word, and it means dessert. And so, during the Passover Seder, you break the matzah, and you hide part of the matzah, which you do in advance, because you don't want to hide it so the kids can see where you're putting it. So already at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Passover night, you start looking for places where you didn't hit it yet. Those kids are very smart. They remember every year where you put it. So you need to be creative about this. But again, and by the way, that's how you finish the Passover Seder. With the pieces of that matzah that was found by the kids, of course you need to bargain about a gift with them. That's how you keep them up. That's why they don't fall asleep. Your adults are already sleeping because they ate too much. The kids are up because they want to see where the matzah is. So again, Sukkot is a holiday where you incorporate deep theological ideas with actual practical deeds. That's how the Jewish holidays are built. They're not just high ideas, theological understanding of God's glory with no substance. So you have to bring into the reality of God's existence and God's goodness for us, and God loves for us, with practical mitzvot, practical commandments that are connected to the celebration of the holiday. So the sukkah is an amazing concept. After you recited your sins and you confess your transgressions during the Day of Atonement, the first thing you do when the day is over, you go to your yard and you put the first sticks of the sukkah. You already are building something that will be at the heels of the confessional. You are ready now to go back to God's world, accepting God's sovereignty in the world and God's strength and power by leaving your home, leaving the comfort of your house, and living outside for 8 days or 7 days outside with the elements. Not worry about anything that will happen to you, because God is your protector. I just recited my transgressions. I'm ready to join God's world, and I'm doing it by putting a bed and a pillow outside in the tundra of Nebraska. What in the hell is going on in my mind? But how do you show your love for God? How do you recognize and you accept God's sovereignty without taking risks in life? Sukkot, this fragile dwelling that you go immediately after the holiday of atonement and the beginning of the year to accept God's sovereignty in your own life. If God is on my side, I don't have to worry about the elements. I'll be fine. There's a wonderful story, and by the way, it's a flimsy structure, especially because Jews are building it. I think we gave up on tools once we finished with the pyramids in Egypt. We have phone numbers, and we call those specials to come and fix stuff. We're not good at fixing. We're good at mending. Fixing is too complicated. And so there's a story about this sukkah that was built by a synagogue in Indianapolis. And the custodian heard that there will be floods and rain and it will be very dangerous. So he put a green tarp over the sukkah to protect the sukkah from the rain, from the elements. Except you know what happened when you have tarp on the top of a sukkah? After a while he went out and he saw that the water is accumulating there, and so he took a knife, sharp knife, and cut the tarp. And all the water, of course, gushed down and was absorbed by the land, by the ground. There's a lesson here. There's a lesson. We need to be open to the elements. The sukkah is us. We are the fragile structure that exists after the holidays. We don't know what kind of a year we're going to have. Is it going to be a year of blessing or curses? Am I going to be alive or dead? What's written in my book of life up there? So you are actually a fragile kind of existence, and the worst that we can do to ourselves is to wrap ourselves, and many of us do it. We wrap ourselves with psychological tarp, and we don't allow for anything to enter in, both the sadness and the sun, the happiness and the ugliness. That's why the sukkah on the top only branches. It doesn't protect you from anything, purposefully. So this is part of the teaching that will come from the following lines of the Hasidic masters. They were fascinated with this. They were interested why. They looked for more than the reason that our ancestors built them when they left Egypt. Who knows? It's hard for me to imagine that every night in the desert they built a sukkah and they took it up in the morning. Okay, so I accept the words of the Torah. Fine. Must be more than that. That's how we approach the Bible. There must be more to the teaching than just the surface. That's what they did, the Hasidic masters. That's what every commentary on the Bible does. Both Christian, Muslim, and Jewish commentators. They try to find meaning for our lives today. And there is a meaning to us as a fragile sukkah. We are more fragile sukkah than sturdy houses. What do we know? What do we know what will happen to us when we leave this building? But I'm willing to live in this kind of condition knowing that God is at my side. So my religious observance and my relationship to God has to be strengthened by realizing how small I am in this vast universe. Okay, I talk too much. Come on. Respond to me.
So, the Bible is the beginning of the story, the meaning. You search for where it's leading you.
I'm searching every word in the Bible, every letter in the Bible. I mean, those people that did commentary looked at everything, including how the words sound, including realizing that vowels came after the words. So first were words, and then vowels, how to pronounce them. So the vowels too, even the music. There is a sense in Judaism that this melody was already heard by Moses in Sinai. So the music that the cantor chants in a synagogue can be traced back, some of them to the 18th century, but some of them can be traced maybe to early periods. We don't know. What else? Is this concept resonance with you?
It's awesome.
Give me some examples from Christian holidays that are complemented by actual deeds. Well, I know about prayers.
The Stations of the Cross, where you actually walk.
Beautiful. Actually, you can walk them in Jerusalem. Walking them in Jerusalem, it's even higher kind of a feeling than doing it here. I mean, it's hard to imagine Jerusalem in Omaha. Maybe not. This is Jerusalem on law. But they're walking through the Stations of the Cross.
Easter sunrise service.
Easter, why? Why is that? Tell me.
Well, sunrise because that's when Jesus rose,
Yeah.
or when the world knew that he had risen,
Beautiful.
and we make a special service for that.
And how many people wake up so early? And, oh, it's too early to get up. Forget it, I'm staying in bed. Excuse me, that's not the purpose of how you're going to commemorate that.
And now we have it on the steps of the temple. The last couple
In
of
Omaha.
years, yeah.
Maundy Thursday during the Holy Week before Easter.
So what do you do?
Washing of the feet.
Beautiful. What else? I'm sure you have a lot more than what? Lent? Yeah.
Communion.
Communion. Excellent. I mean, so every time the ritual of communion happens, it's a lot deeper than just that moment. And usually there'll be the recitation of the story of what the wine and the bread is about. It's a powerful piece.
The whole issue of giving gifts at Christmas does also have the accompanying thing that that's the best time of year for charities. They get their best donation.
Yeah.
Instead of people feel guilty, they're giving gifts or whatever. But we do have a rise in general charitable giving.
Yeah, definitely. And then the day after, it's back to the same low donations. Yeah. This was something that bothered me for years in Omaha, and a few times I would call the World Herald because they had pictures of families receiving it, and I thought it's the most asinine. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other words to do, because it is possible some of the classmates of those kids will see the pictures, and then what is the point of embarrassing? But so the World Herald will tell me, yeah, but that's the only way we can raise a lot of money, putting the names of all the donors, and they have good fellows, and there's a way of offering the same kind of help with a little bit more dignity, thinking about the other. So I was always upset about those. And then they stopped picking up my phone. They got tired of me complaining about this every year. It didn't help. All right, look at the text now. Are there any other comments? So it's also true in Islam. Islam has also the same idea. I mean, you have to take those words you say and fix them into deeds. You can't have them separated from the deeds that you need to perform. Yes.
Rabbi, the imam, spoke yesterday in our church, and he talked about that yesterday, about you don't just sit here in the pews on Sunday morning, but then you go out and do things. It was a great lesson.
During the time that my wife was in the hospital and also in Madonna, he and his wife came a few times. And last time they came to our house, they brought a dish, which we couldn't wait for them to leave the house so we can go and eat it. It was vegetarian with seeds of pomegranate. It was just one of those dishes that explodes in your mouth from the beauty of the taste. Okay, so one of the things we have in Sukkot, and we wave it, it's called the lulav, the waving of the lulav. Lulav is a combination of 4 different vegetations put together, and they come from the verse in Leviticus about waving the lulav. Osana, Oshana. You remember the waving at the time of the temple, in the time of Jesus. It's described in the New Testament of the waving of the lulav. And so, and you wave it into different directions. You wave it up and down, to east and west, and south and north. You wave it in all directions to again describe God's existence in all the world, all over. God is all around. So look at what the Hasidic rabbis are doing with the teaching? Who would like to read, please? Anyone, loud. Come on. It's early in the morning. The meaning of lulav. Nancy, please.
The meaning of lulav from the viewpoint of the receptive self. You begin each wave of the lulav from your chest.
Okay, you have direction how to do it. I mean, you have to follow the directions. You start by bringing those 4 items to your heart. You start from your heart. Go on.
The locus of the heart. It is in our hearts that we proclaim God's kingship.
That's where the kingship of God can be understood, only from our heart. Go on.
Waving the lulav means this. We are a microscopic representation of the divine form. Israel, in whom I am glorified.
You know this verse from Isaiah. It's a powerful verse. Go on.
Within each of us. But sometimes we have bad love in our hearts. As we raise up the lulav, we raise those loves from heart to mind.
So by moving the lulav, the 4 species, from the heart up, we're trying to move those loves from our heart into our mind. We need to connect the heart and the mind. Go on.
There the love becomes purified. In my mind, I say, why should I love corporeal things? It is better to love worshiping God, to proclaim Yahweh King over all. I come to accept this higher love from each of the 3 chambers within the mind. Then I bring the lulav and the other species back down to the chest.
Then you bring it down. From up, you bring it down. Go on.
Allowing that love to flow into my heart or receptive self. That is how one can accept God's kingship in true love. You can do the same with loving the awe of God or the glory. Bring each of them back to your chest, the place of your heart, your receptive self where you serve God.
How do we make this love we talk about to something that is practical, meaningful? It's not just enough to leave them in the heart or the chest or to bring them to the mind. You need constantly to have the movement between the mind and the heart in order to be able to understand how you need to act in this world. So by, yes.
With that in mind, I often hear from many people that I see when they are troubled with a problem, they find themselves falling back on, when they are angry at someone, they find themselves falling back on what they say is my intuition. And they are, I'm angry at them, they've just done me wrong. Now, when they go back on intuition, it's a feeling, it's in the heart. When they bring it to their mind, then it becomes a thought.
And then they can act on this.
That's right, they can make a decision. So then we have the person who has thought through their feelings and got to their thoughts and found the word. And in this situation, the word is God.
Absolutely. So it is possible then, even if you bring it to the mind, you can still have bad thoughts.
That's right.
Yeah, but they're not coming from just the heart. You allow for those words to go through a process that is higher intellectually, that can maybe teach you that you should not rely on your intuition.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
You want too much. Yeah. Yeah, yes.
All right. Where the text says, why should I love corporeal things? It is better to love worshiping God. Is that suggesting that to love another person is, I don't get the question.
Well, the question is, why do I need to be concentrating in loving other people, other objects? I can just be just me and God. Why do I need anyone else?
I don't get that. Say that again, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
How do you really feel about this? I think there are groups in the world that are dedicating themselves just to loving God.
Yes.
They are not interested in relationship. This is not Judaism. Judaism suggests that I need to be involved with other people. I cannot just run away to the desert and build my monastery and worship and pray only for God. I need to have other things in my mind and other things in my soul that I need to love.
I totally agree with that. For me, this text does not say that. It says just the opposite. Or it asks the opposite question. Why should I love humans, if you will? Isn't it better to just keep worshiping God?
Yeah, that's exactly what it says.
And then I think it goes on to say, yeah, that it is better.
It still has a question mark after corporal things. It is better. I think there's a sarcasm in this sentence. I don't think this sentence says, yeah, I should just love God.
That is so beautifully Talmudic, I can hardly stand it. Thank you.
No, but that's the style of the writing.
Yeah.
That's what I said to you before. I mean, this is something that hopefully you'll gain. If there's one thing to gain from whatever I say here, is this ability to have dialectic understanding and suffer as a result of it by reading this material. That's how they investigate it. What's the point in investigating anything if you only can translate or explain them one way? Who said that the way you understand that verse is the only one? Are you kidding? That never works in Judaism. You're wrong. You're wrong. Even before they hear the opinion, you're wrong. Have you ever look at some of the comedians. I mean, that's the best example to understand how Jews think about things. This movement, I mean, what is this in Judaism? This means that there's more to the verse than just this. That you need to go a few times into the verse, investigate, breathe, smell it, and have 50 other opinions about this. This is Talmudic way. Yeah? When you do this, you see we have a sign language and we are so verbal. You say this, you know exactly in Jewish circles what it means. Go and investigate that verse more, because there are other ways of looking at the verse. What you're saying is correct, but guess what? There's more correct or equally correct interpretations. That's how we are trained. Not only rabbis, but this is part of the Jewish existence, and I lament sometimes that our young children don't know that. We lost some of the sign language. Oh my God. Okay. Go to the next page. This is, again, the same verse about the take for yourself from Leviticus, to take the 4 species and to wave them. And now comes a different kind of interpretation. So the same verse is brought to your attention, but every page has a different understanding about the verse. So who would like to read this, please? Yes. Yeah.
Question,
Yeah.
Rabbi.
Okay.
Are you waving the lulav?
Yeah, you have the. You
Are
say
you
that
waving it out in your hut?
you wave it in a synagogue.
In a
if you
synagogue,
don't
okay.
in a synagogue, or you're supposed to own your own
You
set,
should have one. Okay.
and then you go to the synagogue with this, and you wave it in the sukkah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a specific way of doing it. So you have 4 species, and they stand for different parts of your body. So you have very narrow leaves that are the eyes. You have a little bit of a larger kind of a leaf that are the lips. You have the lemon or the etrog, which is the heart. And you have the spine, which is the, what am I looking for? What? Oh, palm tree. Yeah. So you take a branch from a palm tree. So you put them together, and by the way, that etrog, that lemon, for a citrus, those are hard to find. You have to buy them in the market because they have a special kind of ending, the piton. Yeah. The stamp. The stamp has to be perfect. If the stamp of the lemon is broken, it's not kosher. So every year, when we have it, we have to sit with a custodial staff and explain to them, when you put it in the refrigerator, to make sure it stays for 8 days or 7 days, make sure you don't touch or play. And always it's the fear that one of the kids will, oh, okay, boom. Anyway, you bring it together. You bring the heart and the spine and the lips and the eyes together to one unity, and then you wave it. You wave it when you can confess the unity of who you are. When you understand that everything is connected, that the eyes are connected to the lips, and the lips is connected to the heart, and if you don't have a spine, bye-bye. I mean, what are you standing for? It's something that hopefully when we are dwelling together next to each other, we'll have enough chances to see this in action. I think that will be the beautiful part of the relationship on the Tri-Faith campus.
Question?
Yeah.
So waving the lulav, is that what the crowd was doing on Palm Sunday?
Yeah, of course. They're all Jewish. Yeah, it's from time to time I think we need to tell ourselves that all of them are Jewish. So they all observe the holiday of Sukkot. That's where the Osana comes, the prayer. Yeah. It'll be interesting how Jewish we're going to make Jesus for all of you. No, I'm serious about this. I think there is a way of understanding the life and the death of Jesus through the Jewish connections, and I think it'll be interesting. There's so much to learn without the actual conversion. No one needs to convert, but to study about it, to understand it in the aspect of a different synagogue or a mosque, to understand each other. There's so many things that are clearer once you understand what's going on.
I think we talk a lot about Jesus being Jewish in this church, but we don't know all of those things about his daily life.
How would you know? Yeah, how would you know? What?
I said Amy Jill. Amy Jill's
Yeah, she came a few times here.
Yeah.
There is definitely an openness in this church to be able to absorb some of those teachings. I never encounter resistance in any time I came here about not wanting to know that. I think it's something natural. Yeah. Before he became Paul's project, he was one of ours.
Question, please.
Yeah.
Is everything settled, or is that everything one of these, all the religious teaching and all that?
It's this. That's how you have to approach text in Jewish tradition, by investigating everything.
Nothing settled?
Nothing settled.
Okay.
Nothing settled.
So,
You don't want it settled. Do you want anything settled?
Well, we know Christ was crucified. That's a fact, isn't it?
Yeah, but so many meanings to the crucifixion. So many ways of looking at the crucifixion. Look at how many different segments of Christianity exist, and some of them are debating some aspects of the crucifixion, or what happened in a cave, or was it the third day? It's open there only if people want to approach it in a scholarly way. I mean, there's a lot to learn and a lot to believe in. So how do you combine the scholarship with the belief? I mean, that's what the purpose of all of our religious buildings, to create education. And we need to do it at a young age. And old age, too. Oh, Rabbi, I know it all. No, you don't. You don't know anything. I don't know anything. The amount of things I don't know, it's mind-boggling. But you have to admit it. You don't know what you don't know. All right, let's start reading this one. So the word here, there's a word in Hebrew, and the first line, midot. Midot are the way you conduct yourself. Midah is a measurement, and midot in plural means characteristics of how to really live your life. And we Jews got the map of the commandments to help us in knowing how to conduct our life, which doesn't make it easy. Just because we got the book of the commandments and there are 613, that doesn't mean that we really know how to do it. First of all, we argue about every one of them. So even before we start learning it, we argue about it. And there are some commandments, of course, that we cannot do anymore because we don't have the temple in Jerusalem, which some of our people are upset about this. There are people in Jerusalem that at this moment created a model. You can go and visit in a museum, a model of how the temple looked, and they are collecting all of the clothing, and they saw clothing that according to tradition was the clothing of the high priest. I mean, you walk into a place in Jerusalem and you can see, you can be transformed to that period. It's amazing. People that they actually believe that they need to bring back the glory of the temple days before the destruction. Some of us don't feel it's important at all. I don't think I'm ready to go back to animal sacrifice. I do it every July 4th. That's enough. It smells. The smoke is all over the house. Oh. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I don't want to offend. But if there were people here, there are people in this community that pray every day, 3 times a day, to the restoration of the sacrificial cult in Jerusalem. For them, that's the ideal. And they are authentic in their belief, and I should respect their belief. But I can avoid some of this commentary. Okay, enough. Please, who would like to read? Loud.
Take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of the lovely tree, branches of the palm.
So this is again from Leviticus about the lulav. Go on.
This verse instructs us to take up the midah, which are alluded to by these weapons of spiritual struggle. The lulav, the etrog, and other two species.
So it's about weaponizing the 4 species in order to achieve a higher level of exaltation and understanding and coherence in the relationship with God. So you weaponize because there's a spiritual struggle that immediately starts after the Day of Atonement. What is the spiritual struggle? Just because you went through a day of confessions and a day of beating your chest and asking forgiveness doesn't mean that the struggle is done. The spiritual struggle is happening to all of us every day, every hour, every minute of our lives if we take our lives seriously. If we understand what the spiritual struggle is all about. Is there anyone in this room that doesn't struggle spiritually? Oh my God, I was wrong. No, I was not. Of course, that's the blessing of our lives, but also the curse. The curse is when we don't do it correctly. So we need to weaponize more instruments in order to help us to go through the struggle, the spiritual struggle. The physical struggle is a whole different story. I learned too much in the last 2 months about physical struggles. The spiritual one is huge. You can put Band-Aid on that. Continue reading, please.
The Midah are also called the 7 days of building. We must accept upon ourselves on the first day, meaning Rosh Hashanah, a day of spiritual battle, that the goal of our prayers and the shofar is to arrive at awareness, God, of
Divine kingship. Okay, so Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the struggle, the spiritual struggle. And then the rest of the year is going to be again, and that's how the shofar helps. The shofar helps for what? Remember the shofar? We spoke about the shofar the last 2 sessions. What the shofar does what?
Wakes us up.
Wakes us up. A spiritual awakeness. We have to be awake in order to be able to be ready for the struggle. You have to have the awareness that the struggle is there. And so continue.
build it up and give it a new form. But simply accepting the divine kingship is like when God was brought out of exile in Egypt. The Midah remains stuck there. That is why we are commanded to dwell in a sukkah for the 7 days, right after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, completing the process of physical weakness.
That's it. Awareness by itself, that is of the heart, is not enough. You have to connect to them midot. What are midot? Actual deeds, commandments, characteristic that you need to develop inside of you to be able to have the awareness, hopefully constantly in your mind. Recitation of prayers alone is not enough. What happened when there wasn't enough just to get the Jews out of Egypt? What was the first thing they had to do? Get to Mount Sinai and hear the midot, hear the commandments, hear what distinguished you from the Egyptians you just left. Why wasn't the Torah given in Egypt? Why wasn't the Torah given in Egypt? If God is all-knowing, big deal. He can drop next to the pyramid the commandments. Hey guys, this is the book I want you to follow. He didn't do it there. You can be free in slavery. When you have physical servitude, you are not going to be able to understand spiritual understanding and awareness. There's no spiritual awareness when you're a slave. That's a huge teaching. I need to take you to the desert, to the open ground, far away from Egypt, far away from the work that you have done as a slave, to an openness, that's where you're going to receive things. In complete freedom, you receive things. And basically what happened there, we substituted Pharaoh with God. Instead of being slaves to a king of flesh and blood, we are witnesses to a king the mighty king, God herself.
Beautiful.
It is also important in educating our children. I mean, you guys cannot demand from them things that you want them to be when they're living at home. They can understand concepts. I love it. I took my son every time during elections to the booth with me when he was young. And then there was a period, I hate all this stuff. Suddenly at age 24, wow, can't wait to register in Illinois, which is, I mean, they're all Democrats there. He needs to be registered here so you can vote for your husband. Anyway, yeah, he grasps, he understands now why is it important on his own merit. It wasn't just because I brought him there and show him how to do it and why is it important.
Although that's important too.
It is important, but it's more important to have the awareness on his own without me telling him what he needs to do.
Okay, can I get us off track?
Yes.
When you say no spiritual awareness when in slavery, and for some reason I immediately go to Viktor Frankl in the concentration
Frankl,
camp.
yeah.
So, talk about that for a second.
That's why the book is, but that's why the book is so powerful. Yeah. How do you become free in a concentration camp?
Or reading Lolita in Tehran, which is a totally different subject, but that whole when you are really captive.
Yeah, those are unique examples. I don't think you and I will not recommend this to anyone. But it is possible some unique individuals that were able to achieve an amazing awareness even in those.
Well, it's probably aspirational to those of us who are not in slavery, but still not reaping those spiritual gifts. So
Yeah. But then the question is, what about us who are constantly living in freedom? How come it's so hard for us in freedom to achieve this? Yes.
Could it also be that it's talking about our slavery to old ideas, our slavery to
Fantastic. So Egypt is more than Egypt. That's what you're saying. Here's an example of doing this. So what she did just now, she talked about slavery that is completely different slavery. Slavery to old ideas.
Yeah.
Slavery to the places that we used to be at age 40, and now we're older, and we're not there anymore, but we feel some kind of a fake loyalty to that. Slavery to what parents taught us. Not everything that our parents taught us is worthwhile keeping. Back to the parents. The role of the father and mother in developing us. Yes, I saw your hand.
I was thinking about the slaves in this country.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, the ones who were spiritual and knew there was something beyond their slavery are the ones who succeeded to escape it. So they had to have a spiritual life.
Yeah. It is possible to have an awareness even in slavery, but the question is how hard it is, and is everyone being blessed with that gift? How many of them fell by the sideline and did not? I mean, the example of having just 2 people that left Egypt and went to the promised land, it's a wonderful teaching. Only 2 are going to make it. 600,000 left. Only 2 made it in the Jewish text. Joshua and Caleb. Not everyone can survive this kind of slavery. Are we building enough of building blocks inside of us to be able to withstand the difficult time in our life? By the way, it doesn't. You can be a slave because you have an illness. I mean, slavery comes in so many different ways. Well, what about those women from the Lydia house? Still wanting to go back to the men who beat them. I mean, there's a comfort in slavery. You have a routine that is kept. You get your food in the morning, even if it's a soup and potato. Where are all the tomatoes and the cucumbers that we had in? That's what they're complaining. The complaints of the Israelites for 40 years, those are our complaints. They are not written there about someone else. It's about us. Those stories are our stories. I'm sure if I ask here from each of you will tell me a different slavery story of your own life. We all have them.
Is slavery the idol that's not the God? And the commandment, they have no other God?
Besides me.
Yes.
It's really a reflection on the golden calf, which they built there. And I think it was important for God to put it as immediately in the beginning. I'm the only God you'll have. Yeah. I think it's connected. And also connected to Pharaoh. People treated Pharaoh. You remember Yul Brynner? Don't you remember Yul Brynner? He was so handsome, so elegant, so beautiful. Yul Brynner. I would definitely worship Yul Brynner before I worship God. It's easy to worship Yul Brynner. May his memory be a blessing. You always have to say that. The King and I, the same piece. People worshiping. I don't know what the British are doing with the Queen still, besides having wonderful series on Netflix. I'm still amazed how they worship her. I mean, it's beautiful. It's England. They're strange. That's why we are not there. But idols can be a lot of things. Everything we think is important can turn into an idol. Wars are idols. I'm thinking about the Middle East. What the Middle East has created is a series of idols running away, sometimes purposefully, sometimes without noticing, from what needs to happen there. Look at the Saudis. Look at the relationship that the president has with the Saudis. Isn't this about an idol? How much money they pay every time they stay in his hotels?
Millions.
Even what? Oh, terrible. I can't believe I'm doing this a few days before the election.
Keep it up, Rabbi.
Let's continue with after the physical deeds. So we need to process, we complete the process of the Rosh Hashanah prayers and Yom Kippur with physical deeds. Go on, we pick up
the lulav and the etrog with our hands, and by waving them we infuse the da'at obtained on Rosh Hashanah into the 6 madat and the
6 directions. So there are 6 directions, which I mentioned up and down, and then the 4 different directions. We make them into reality in our lives. If I'm done waving the lulav at Sukkot, don't you think I'm going to keep the awareness, hopefully, of why I did this? Why did I bring the 4 species together and was holding them together? The heart, the spine, the eyes, and the lips. How are they reflecting what I just went through the holiday? Rosh Hashanah is what? Asking forgiveness for words I said. Words that I cannot retrieve anymore. Arrows I send into the hearts of people by the way I felt about them. You take those 4 species, you weigh them, you put them together, you know that you need to be whole. And the rest of the year you need to work very hard that what comes out of your mouth is also reflected by your actions. This is the ultimate awareness. That's what God is asking us. In those holidays, God demands complete awareness from us to know who God is and to also know who we are. I don't think God is satisfied of us knowing about God alone. I don't think God went through the trouble of creating God's self without asking from us also to treat everyone else created in God's image. That verse, I think that's the most important verse in the entire Bible. That God created us in God's image. There is no other verse holiest than that. Knowing that in each one of us, there is a piece, a spark that comes from the divine. Wow! Why did they have to write it? And share it with us. Think about this. Everything that is written there has a purpose. Everything written there has a purpose. Both in the New and the Old Testament. And the Quran. They have purpose. They have teaching there. Why would someone spend the time to write down that we are created in God's image? You ever thought about the author of that verse? I'm in awe of knowing that a person, one of the human beings, okay, I know that the Torah can also be looked as divine gift. Okay, you see, this is how I can have 2 different opinions in my mind at the same time, and they live peacefully, beautifully in my mind without keeping me up at night. Although I take Ambien. But everyone takes Ambien. It is this ability to think that the Torah is a divine gift. At the same time, I know that there were human beings that were creating it. What an amazing idea for someone to sit down and write. Maybe the only contribution of that person was 1 verse. That we are created in God's image. Wow, what a gift. What a gift. The gift is, of course, what you do with it. It's not just enough to read the Bible. It's what are we doing with the verses. And how they affect our lives. And how are they keeping us aware of what this world is all about. Let's continue.
This helps us understand what we recite every day in Sim Shalom.
So there's a prayer in the Amidah, Sim Shalom. Give us peace, grant us peace. Your most precious gifts. Continue.
The last blessing of the Amidah. Bless us as one, our Father, with the light of your countenance. But how can it be that our sages arrange the words of the prayer thus?
What is the problem of this prayer? Okay, here comes your chance to do this. So, listen to this. Bless us as one, our Father, with the light of your countenance. What is the problem?
We're not one.
We are not one. How can you bless us? How can one blessing be for all of us? We all need blessings, different blessings. We all have different yearnings. We have different needs. How can you bless us with one blessing? Continue.
But how can it be that our sages arrange the words of the prayer thus? The needs of Israel are so many.
Yeah, we have so many needs. I'm sure if I suggested here to write a prayer, bless us, come on, give me, what do you guys need blessing with? What? Come on. Health, what else?
Relationships.
Relationships. Come on.
Love.
Love. You want too much. Relation was mentioned. What else? There are hundreds of things. things we want to be blessed with. We're so polite. None of us need money. Wow. I forgot it's a boning in a church, so we don't. No, but you see the difficulties. I mean, all of us need different blessings. How come one blessing? Continue.
Each person asks for the particular things that his soul is lacking, since that which one person is missing, someone else may not need, and so forth. Therefore, how can we ask, bless us as one, our Father, with a single blessing?
Wow. That language exists also in your prayer book. Bless us as one. Continue.
We can explain it in this way. The primary goal of worship is to attain the illuminating light that refracts through the different colors, which are the 7 days of building. These are differentiated from one another. But this is not true of the illuminating light that shines through them. It contains no distinctions whatsoever. All of the individual elements that we find in this world of division exist there in absolute unity. This is what we ask of God. Bless us as one, our Father. If you wonder how all of our needs can be fulfilled by a single blessing, the answer comes along with the request. We ask for the deepest illuminating light that holds the blessings for all of our various needs.
Okay. So this is about the rainbow. When is the rainbow the most beautiful of rainbows?
After the rain.
Yeah, but not after every rain. There are some storms that are the hardest one, yeah. The hardest storms that you get out of your house and you see those colors and it's beautiful. But the beauty comes from the fact that each of them have distinguished color. What makes it brilliant are the clear distinguish that exist between each color. So according to Hasidic tradition, each day of creation was created with a different color. Yeah, it wasn't gray. This is not black and white. God did not create the world in black and white. God created the world in colors. I don't know why it took so long to move from black and white movie to color. God already knew the technique. So, what are we asking? What are we asking? We're asking that all of those colors are going to affect our lives in unity. All of the colors are going to come in one ray that will unite and combine all of those colors. So when I pray, let's pray as one, I want a blessing as one, is being able to deliver what each person needs with the same color, although what each person needs is a different color. Being able to look at the rainbow and seeing the unity that comes even in the midst of different colors. Because what's unique there are the distinguished colors, but they all come together for the rainbow after a serious storm. And sometimes after the storm, after the upheaval, after the difficulty, there's no rainbow. You know what? Get used to that too. Yeah. Sometimes you actually come out and you don't see the rainbow because it's in a different part of the city. Not every time we come out of the houses after rain, we see rainbows. And definitely there's no pot of gold. But that's good. You know, some people needed a pot of gold for their tradition. Okay, let's continue.
This is why we say, with the light of your countenance, Panim. After succeeding in awakening that shining interior, you
Bifnim.
Bifnim.
I'll explain this in a minute.
Then you grant us, Yahweh, our God, a Torah of life and loving kindness, righteousness, blessing, compassion, life, and peace. All of the blessings enumerated here are contained within that total unity.
Yeah. So here is the difficulty of reading a work in translation. So panim, what a punim? You know, you heard the word punim? What's a punim in Hebrew? Face. We see those kids, little children, and we go and we squeeze their face. What a punim! What a punim! But the word panim is also pnima, what's inside. The same word for face is also the word for the interior of your soul. Listen again. So what I see outside of the face is what your soul really reflects. What a beautiful understanding. Your inside and outside is the same. So in order to have the awareness inside, and it's the same word, the awareness bifnim is like the panim, punim, face outside. So this is what we ask. We ask from God for different things for ourselves, but He delivers this with one unity. God only knows how to deliver things in unity. Although we ask for different prayers for ourselves, they come in one delivery. And that delivery contains all the things that all of us are searching for, yearning for, praying for. That's the different colors that are coming together in one delivery. It's the boxes that come from Amazon now. We are so smart now. Now we are making sure that we order few things. And in the beginning when I was ordering, every day I was ordering something and they all came with different boxes. And then I said, wouldn't it be nice to get all of them in one box? So God is like Amazon. Delivering everything in one box. And you open it and each person finds the things they prayed for themselves delivered. But they're in one box. Saves a lot of money, by the way.
That's all we need. Can we quote you? God is like Amazon.
I think God is not in the level of Amazon. No, but I think all of us, don't you guys, total awareness means that everything that happens to you during the day, you find a connection. And please continue practicing this. You'll go to sleep and you have nightmares about this. But that's what the total unity. All of them are in the same websites. Everything you want comes in the same websites. Yes?
This seems to me that Jesus, who had learned this, called it to seeking the kingdom within. The kingdom is within you. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah, because if Jesus read the Torah, I'm sure the Torah was available, maybe not totally, maybe some pieces, but he heard the story that all of us are created in God's image. So, the kingdom within, yeah. But that's what Hasidic Judaism also viewed in a sense. It's all in you. It's like the ragu spaghetti sauce. Do you remember their commercials? It's all in it. That's what it is. It's all in us. We need to figure a way to discover them. By the way, we can't do it ourselves. That's how we need people. The reason to live alive in a community is because some of the gifts can only be discovered by the people that you relate to, associate with. Yes?
That's exactly what I was thinking too, that if the kingdom is within, and we all have a divine spark, that means that the kingdom is within everybody else too. And that it's up to us to recognize the face of God in all those other people, and boy, is that hard
sometimes it's impossible. Yeah. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It doesn't come automatically. I think God's image, the kingdom, the image, what's inside of you is equal to what's available and can be achieved by other people too. The question is, how much are we working on the kingdom within? I think it is possible that sometimes the work that we do inside is lacking. We understand the kingdom on high. We come outside, we see what a beautiful day today, not as windy as yesterday. Wow, this kingdom is amazing. Look at the color of the leaves. What about the color of the leaves inside of us? What about the tree of life? Who is the tree of life? Why are they using images of leaves and trees when they're trying to investigate now the 23 inside of you? I mean, look at some of the images. You think Apple decided to name their product Apple just by coincidence? It's related to a fruit in the paradise that is not even mentioned, but we all know that it's an apple. There are figs. Chances that all figs, which by the way taste beautifully when they are ripe. Have anyone ate 40, 50 figs in one time? Yeah, in Israel, we had those fig trees when we were growing up. And so many stomach ache happened as a result. We washed the figs, but we ate 50 of them in one sitting. And you go to they're all in the neighborhood. You go and you pick them up. You eat paradise, figs. Let's finish now the last few lines in the next page.
Thus we see there is a difference between Rosh Hashanah and
Sukkot.
Sukkot, even though they are part of the process. On Rosh Hashanah, we resolve in our hearts to build up the Shekinah,
The dwellings of God. Go on.
which is the meaning of God. During Sukkot, we now bring this awareness into realization in all 6 directions through our physical acts.
Okay, so the summary, why do we have those holidays immediately after Rosh Hashanah? Because it's not just enough to have the awareness in your heart, you need to bring it up to the dot, to the awareness that is in the mind. That's the purpose why Sukkot comes after Rosh Hashanah. So each holiday has, in a way, an antidote. You have a holiday, and then you have actual deeds that you need to do in order to make the holiday into what? Realize the holiday. Make it fundamentally part of your soul. Doing those acts. Why am I, it's an interesting question about Hanukkah again. If the oil was enough for 8 days, why don't we start with lighting 8 candles on the first night? If there was enough oil for 8 days, shouldn't you light 8 candles in the first night and every night 8 candles?
Wasn't there just enough oil for one day, but each day there was that enough?
Okay, but it lasted for 8 days. So then let's start 8 days and then maybe 8, 7, 6 going down. The rabbis argue about that. You rise in holiness. You not reduce holiness. So you start with 1 candle and 2nd candle and 3rd, and slowly the holiness fills the home and fills your heart. But you can't just celebrate the story of the Maccabees without doing the light of the Hanukkah menorah. And by the way, the Hanukkah menorah needs to be put on a window, far away from the curtains. Be careful. I'm serious, because there were fires in some places where we had Hanukkah candles. But why do we put the Hanukkah menorah next to the window? Why? Why do we put the Hanukkah, what?
To share that light.
Yeah. To announce the miracle to the world. You put the Hanukkah, similar to the Christmas tree, next to the window. The same idea. Where should, I can think about the first discussion. Honey, where should we put the Christmas tree? Ooh, let's think. You put it in the window. Because everyone that walks around sees the Christmas tree, Hanukkah tree, whatever it is. You announce the miracle. Announcing the miracle is what the lesson is. Making sure everyone becomes aware of where your Christmas tree is. Okay, we have more material. Let's open it for questions or any kind of... I want actually for you this time to put the material back there so we can use it again next time. There's more pages that I wanted to go over next time. Any questions? Any good and welfare? Any questions about... Yes, please.
Just a practical question. The Jewish families actually build the sukkah in their backyard?
Okay, so not every Jewish family builds a sukkah in the backyard, and Jews are so creative. They created companies that prefab the sukkah. So you can call a number if you want it. I'll give it to you. By the way, not a bad idea for people to have a sukkah. You know, it can be nice to understand the fragility of life. How are you going to explain to the family that life is so fragile? So this is a tool to be able to do it. And if you do it in Nebraska in the winter, it really shows you're crazy. But we have prefab, so they come ready. The only thing you need to collect or gather is maybe the greenery to put on the top. It comes with the walls and the poles and instructions in Japanese, in Chinese. But they are Jewish sukkot and they are kosher. Each synagogue has a sukkah. Each synagogue builds the sukkah. So the people that don't build it at home use the sukkah sometimes for meals. You're supposed to eat all your meals there. You're supposed to sleep there overnight unless it's a hazard to your life, if it's very cold. But there are some cold days when Nebraska plays football. So, I mean, you can't go to a Nebraska game on Saturday and not sleep in a sukkah at night. You have to coordinate your good deeds. Yes?
So a family of 6 would have 6?
No, one.
Just one?
Come on. Don't make us crazy. There's a limit to, observance. No, they'll have one sukkah, and the kids will decorate with pictures. And you want to talk about your childhood, and maybe you still do it. I don't know if.
I don't anymore, but we always did when I was a kid. But when it rained, we were told that it's written somewhere that when it rains, if you go and eat in the sukkah, you're an imbecile. That's some group of rabbis said there is a limit.
Some group of practical rabbis that were freezing their behinds every winter. And remember now, those holidays were created where? I mean, it's we never get to the weather of Nebraska. Maybe in Jerusalem sometimes there are very cold nights. But it's so beautiful to walk during the holiday of Sukkot in Jerusalem and see they have so many sukkahs. And we had a few years ago, maybe we did it recently, we have Sukkah Hub, a great program to check each other's sukkah. So you see what the other person did. And usually you need more than one family to build a sukkah because someone needs to hold this pole while I'm nailing it. Oh my God, my finger! Watch my fingers! Yeah. So Sukkah hop is a wonderful activity for Sukkot, when you can go see what your neighbors did.
Rabbi, how about the sukkah competitions that they have? I mean, those are
Oh.
amazing.
Yeah, for the most beautiful Sukkot, I mean, you have to increase the excitement. My Sukkah is nicer than your Sukkah. No, that's not the purpose of the holiday. The purpose of the holiday was to just become aware of God's kingdom.
Well, my Christmas decorations are better than yours.
Yeah, Christmas tree. My Christmas tree. Come see. Wow, you have never seen a Christmas tree like it. By the way, but we have it. I mean, through the years we have Chanukiot. The Hanukkah menorah. There's a name for this. It's called Chanukiah. It's not Hanukkah menorah. Chanukiot. There are some art pieces of Hanukkah menorahs which are beautiful, which are gorgeous, which you really don't want to ruin it by having the wax on the. Yeah. No, you're supposed to ruin it. You're supposed to find matzah crumbs in the Passover Haggadah story. Keep it dirty. Every year add down who came this year to the table to keep the memories of who is there. Jewish objects should be messy. Should not be kept in a museum. That's why the Torah is taken out of the ark. We don't keep the Torah in the ark for everyone to see the Torah. We take it out. Usually you have to bring someone to fix it after a few years. I mean, we invited a few times a scribe to come and highlight some of the letters. During the year, some of the letters from the Torah become fading. You know, that's why we use a pointer to read from the Torah instead of fingers. We have oil at the edge, at the end of the finger, so you're not supposed to touch the Torah with your hands. We have a pointer, and those pointers are so beautiful. They're all artistically done. We add beauty to some of those objects, and the beauty is not there to take away from what is the meaning of the object. It's just to enhance. Anything else about?
I was thinking about the lighting of the candles, and it seems to me like lighting them one at a time would be like each day celebrating that the oil had lasted another day and another day.
Of course. Yeah. But I mean, there's always the wise rabbi who says, why aren't we lighting all 8 candles now? And then, of course, the explanation. I think they purposely raise the questions in order to create commentary. So some of the questions they raise are so simple, and the answers are so simple. They are not interested in simplistic answers to everything. That's why this move. You dig it in. You create dirt under the nails. Thank you. Thank you very much. So please put the material back on the table.
Hi, Chris. Hi there.